Okay, well, surprisingly, the Norton's still working. So I thought we'd maybe give it a service and do some of the little jobs that I've never got round to doing because I'm constantly fixing the thing. Yeah, bits like change the handlebars on it for some that aren't quite so bent. Take that engine breather off and put it in the right place. I kicked it up this way when I was trying to figure out where all the oil leaks were coming from. Sort of just divert it somewhere else and forgot to put it back. And just various little bits and bobs like that. And like I said, we'll give it a good service. We'll maybe grease the steering head up because I never have done. Swinging arm pivots. Yeah, sort of maybe change the fork oil, take a look at the forks, bits like that. We'll just sort of go through it and sort of get it ready for a bit more riding. Yeah, like I said, all the bits that I've just neglected because I've been constantly fixing the thing. So yeah, we best do so much with them before it gets worse. Before they wear out or something goes wrong. Oh yeah, maybe put a new seal in the filler cap because that one obviously leaks. So yes, I shall, yeah, I'll have my cup of tea and have a ponder about the job. Where's my cup of tea? Cup of tea's over there. And then we'll get moving. Sort of take all its clothes off, drop some oils out of it. We're not going to bother changing the gearbox oil. It's only been in there a few hundred miles. 2, maybe 3. Oh, I don't know. But of course, replace the barrel and whatnot. So I want to drop the engine oil out and maybe put something slightly better in because I just put some cheap rubbish stuff in for running it in. But yeah, right. Anyway, cup of tea and onwards. Okay, so I might have got a little bit carried away there. Maybe forgot I was meant to be making a video and just started taking things apart. So yeah, the oils are coming out of it. So we've got oil tubs everywhere because of course we've got the oil draining out the tank to that one. I've taken the drain plug out the bottom of the engine going into that one, and then that's one for the primary. That oil hasn't all come out the primary, there was some in the bottom of the tub. But the adjustment on the primary chain seems somewhere near. The homemade alternator looks to be holding up okay. Last time I checked its charging rate, it was fine. Should maybe do that again at some point soon. Yeah, with its oversized coil still on there with cable ties. Spark plug is maybe a little bit on the, she's maybe running a little bit on the rich side. But its last journey was a very short one, and the heat range on this plug is completely wrong for this bike. I don't know if it'll focus on that or just on my fingers. So yeah, it really shouldn't have that hard a plug in, but you know, it has. So yeah, pardon me. So we've whipped the back wheel out. A few reasons really. One is this chain adjuster. If it'll let me take the blooming thing out. How long is it? Flipping out. There we go. So well, that's not a proper chain adjuster bolt. It's the right thread. The length's near enough, but the size of the flats on here are a little too big. So let's just try and hold the camera with my knees. When you're adjusting the chain, those flats sit tight between this nut and the swinging arm, and it's a bit of a git to adjust. You have to back this off a very long way, and it has to be back on a flat again. You can't have it in between, it's got to be bang on a flat. So I'll probably just pop that in the vise and just the first few mil, just file these corners off and round it a little bit so that it does just sit on there and spin nicely when it's done, in theory. Right, so that's one of the reasons the back wheel's out. The other was to check the back brake. Shoe life looks okay. Someone's taken a bit of a chip out of it here and there. But not to worry. But this pivot is beginning to stick. You see, I've pushed it so the brake's slightly on and it's not returned. There we go. So we'll have a bit of corrosion build up in here. The joys of riding through winter, there'll be loads of little bits like that. I also wanted to see what was going on here, because this is the wrong one for this bike. I think it's a 42 tooth and I should have a 43 on, something like that anyway. But yeah, don't quite know what that's about. I've obviously raised these in from the other side and ground it back. Not sure what's going on. Should maybe look at getting another one of these. Not the cheapest thing in the world, but this is very slightly not round. You do get a bit of fluctuation in brake effort, a little bit of judder on the pedal, and like I said, it's 42 tooth instead of 43, sorry, because the gearing is all to cock on this thing. I think the only thing that's right is the amount of teeth on the clutch hub. I think everything else is just a mix match, and it does not like headwinds or hills or I mean, don't get me wrong, get a downhill with a tailwind, flipping heck it goes like the clappers, but you got to go up the hill with a headwind first, haven't you? And then turn around and come back. So anyway, yeah, that's in bits. Wanted to just sort of grease up the speedo drive and whatnot, and see what's going on with these rear wheel bearings. They sort of seem okay, I think. I'll have a better prod and a poke at them in a little bit. Yeah. Oh, and I really should change this tyre. It's an old Avon race tyre. Quite how it's lasted this long, I don't know. But I have been monitoring its deterioration, and although there's quite a lot of tread left on it, it's not good enough to do what I want to do. Like I said, it is very old, the thing is, and she's starting to crack. And I'm not quite sure how it hasn't popped a tube yet, because there's a hole drilled in the rim here, presumably for a rim lock of some type, and there's nothing in it. How the tube hasn't just bulged out of there and popped, I'm not sure. But it hasn't, so you know, we've been okay. So yeah, need to get that sorted. And of course I can now get underneath there and clean out all the mucky nastiness from winter. Because it is, yeah, I don't know. No, it doesn't show up very well on the camera, but yeah, that is a bit salty and gritty under there. Okay, so what was next? I think it's time for another cup of tea. And then we'll carry on taking bits apart and just see how deep this hole gets. Right. Onward. Okay, that last tea break took a bit longer than expected. About 3 hours. Turns out the child rather inconveniently needed feeding. Anyway, we've dug the hole about as deep as we're going to dig, which is quite deep, really. Yeah, the bike's currently propped up by a couple of bits of wood, because all my stands are under someone else's bike, which isn't even here. Yeah, I think my paddock stands are about 20-25 miles away. So anyway, we have lumps of wood, but they seem to be doing the job. So yes, it's I don't think I'm going to dig any deeper than that, really, because I don't want to find any more than what I'm finding. But yeah, we'll go through it all and see what needs replacing, see what needs adjusting. Steering head bearings are maybe a bit gritty. Yeah, I might clean them out and re-grease them, see what they feel like, or we might put new ones in. Not sure. Got the forks out. They've actually got oil in them, which I'm quite surprised at. They are leaking, as you'd expect on an old girl. Stanchions aren't end of the world, they're not perfect by a long way, but I think we can do something with them. Ooh, look at that. That top, I don't know if that'll show on the camera. That top thread, someone's given that a smack at some point, but the caps fit okay, so yeah, the other fork legs falling behind that bit of mat. Okay, it was upright, it's not anymore. But yeah, I mean, need to check things like the wheel bearings and whatnot, and yeah, swinging arms out of it. The bushes look reasonable at the moment, I think. I've not cleaned anything yet, it's still covered in all the muck, but they don't look end of the world. the spindle, the pivot bolt for the swinging arm did take a little bit of persuading to come back out. It is covered in copper slip, but yeah, it did need a bit of persuading. Anyway, I'm going to go inside and wash up, and I'll come back out here tomorrow morning, maybe. Whenever I get a chance, I'll come back out and we'll go through everything and just make a mind up on, yeah, what's going to get cleaned, greased and adjusted, and what's going to get binned and replaced. Yeah, they don't feel brilliant. Right, anyway, onward. Okay, so it's not quite morning, it's maybe afternoon. But anyway, right, I've taken the bearing retainers out of both the front and rear wheels, and I think we're going to keep these bearings for now. They're okay. They feel nice and smooth, they turn okay, they're not dry and gritty at all. So I'll probably just give it a bit of a clean out on both sides and re-grease them, and they can go back in. I say back in, I've got to take them out. Do I take them out? I'll do what I do. Anyway, steering head bearings on the other hand, I've decided we're changing. The top one, the remnants are down there somewhere. Not quite sure where all the ball bearings landed, but not to worry. But the bottom one, this has got quite a lot of play in it. You can probably see there's no cage in there. So what was happening was all the balls were bunching up and it was going tight. And you give it a bit of a tap of it, and they'd all spread out again, and she was okay. But there is, I can't find it now. There's a couple of spots where it's got quite a lot of play in as well. So yeah, I think we'll put some steering head bearings in. We might go for tapered rollers. I prefer tapered rollers and steering heads. Just keeps everything nice and tight. The only problem is they are, and you get the tapered rollers, the closest ones you can get for these do stand, I don't know, maybe a mil proud top and bottom, but that's not end of the world. So yeah, I think I'm going to, pardon me, I'm going to do a bit of measuring and pop to our local bearing place and see if I can find some. Okay, so my local friendly bearing shop are out of bearings. There was just a gap on the shelf where they're meant to be. Which is a shame. Like I said, they normally do carry them. They are quite good, they've got most things. But yeah, timed it wrong, so I've had to order them. So what I have been doing is I've been doing makeshift cable oilers. I've been rummaging through bins, finding old drinks bottles, drill a hole in the lid, push the cable through, wrap some tape around, and then just sort of leave it suspended. With this one, is that the one? No, that's okay. Yeah, that one it can just pour through. That's only going into the gearbox. We've got another one down here for the decompressor, and one for the throttle cable that I'm just periodically pouring a bit of oil through and then popping it back down again, because I don't want to fill my carburetor up with oil and I'm knocking them everywhere. And then the front brake one, since it's already off, is I've just got the cable very lightly nipped in the vise, little pot there, and then the other end into a plastic tub to catch anything that comes through. And then that way as well I can just work the cable up and down a little bit and sort of encourage the oil to come through. One day, I mean, I've been threatening this for many years, I will buy some proper cable oilers. Because yeah, using all plastic bottles, it's, you know, plastic bottles don't cost anything, but every time I do this I use half a roll of tape up, and I do waste quite a lot of oil, because you have to put quite a lot in there to make sure the end of the cable's covered. So what we're going to do now is, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drink that cup of tea down there that's going cold, and then we'll take a look at some forks. Right, onward. Okay, so we've got one of the forks just loosely in the vise. I've just unscrewed the seal retainer, and well, custard. Yeah, that is definitely leaking, isn't it? That's nasty. Let's tip that out. Let's see what the rest of the oil in the fork looks like. There's a drain tub down here. We'll just, I'm draining it onto the floor right this moment. Let's see if anything comes out the end at all. That's not looking promising, is it? Let's just pop that down. Is that going to stay there? Is it hell? I'll put my knee against it. Right. Let's put you on your tripod. Oh, there we go. There's something coming out of it a little bit. Well, dare say there's some websites you have to pay to see people do things like this. Yeah, well, that little dribble of emulsified mess wasn't going to be doing much in the way of damping, was it? So I shall take the little bolt out at the end there. We'll pull them apart and we'll see just how bad these stanchions are, because they're not looking pretty. No. Okay. Right, I'll take it apart and I'll bring you back. Okay, well, I'm going to have to do something about this. These are knackered. There's a bit of chrome just about there, and the same on the other one. Loads of play when you put them together. We just put the bushes in and just drop the sliders inside the fork bottoms. Loads of play in them. So yeah, we're going to have to do something about that. Quite what, I'm not sure. So yeah, we're sort of a little bit stuck at the moment, so we need to do something about the forks. They're ordered, Stonehead bearings, they should be here in the next day or two. Need to see about getting a rear drum and sprocket, and the rest of it is just cleaning things up and greasing and just general run-of-the-mill maintenance stuff. So yeah, unless some parts turn up rather sharpish, the end of the video should be just about